I never thought I'd find myself in this situation. I always believed that my marriage to Sarah was built on solid ground. We had our ups and downs, sure, but who does? Sarah was the love of my life, funny, intelligent, and fiercely independent. We met in college and had been married for 5 years. I was certain that we were in this for the long haul, but somewhere between the late-night Netflix binges and the brunches with friends, something changed. I started noticing subtle signs that things weren't quite right. Sarah began taking longer to respond to texts, often claiming she was caught up with work or out with friends. The late nights at the office became a regular occurrence, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she was pulling away. I tried pushing my insecurities aside. I mean, in a marriage, you trust your partner, right? But the nagging feeling in my gut kept getting louder. One day, I came home early from work. I had plans to surprise Sarah with dinner, something nice to reconnect. I walked into our apartment, and the first thing I noticed was the silence. Normally, the place would be filled with the sounds, her cooking or her favorite music playing in the background, but that day it was eerily quiet. I called out for her, but there was no answer. Puzzled, I ventured into the living room where I found her phone lying on the coffee table. I picked it up, intending to leave it for her. But then, for reasons I still can't explain, I glanced at the screen. My heart sank. There was a message from a guy named Mark, someone I'd never heard of before. The text read, "Can't wait to see you tonight, babe. Just you and me, I love our time together." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I dropped the phone back on the table, my hands trembling, my mind raced. 1,000 thoughts collided in my head. Who was this Mark? Why was Sarah seeing him? Was this what I had been sensing? The betrayal felt like a wave crashing over me, overwhelming and suffocating. I tried to calm down and think rationally, but the anger and hurt were suffocating. I remembered the way she used to smile at me, the soft kisses that lingered longer than they should have, and now it all felt tarnished. That evening when she came home, I confronted her. I couldn't hold back any longer. "Who is Mark?" I asked, my voice steady but my heart racing. The look on her face was a mix of shock and guilt, and for a moment I thought I might break her. But instead she did the opposite. She deflected. "Mark, oh my God, that's just a work friend. You know how dramatic people can be," she stammered, her tone sharp and defensive. "I can't believe you'd even think that." But I wasn't buying it. I demanded answers, and Sarah started to unravel, the truth spilling out like a broken dam. "Fine. Yes, I've been seeing him," she finally admitted. "But it's not what you think, it's complicated." Complicated. My world was crumbling around me, and she had the audacity to call it complicated. I felt rage boil within me, a mix of betrayal and confusion. How could she say it was complicated when she had made a choice to betray me? The emotions coursing through me were overwhelming, but the one that stood out the most was a deep, unshakable sense of loss. In that moment I realized this wasn't just about infidelity, it was about the future I thought we had shared. As Sarah rambled on about her reasons and justifications, I felt a growing coldness within me. The woman I thought I knew was disappearing, and in her place was someone I barely recognized. With a heavy heart, I backed away from the confrontation, trying to process everything. I had a decision to make, and I knew it would change everything. The pain was raw, but I couldn't let it consume me. I had to think about what I wanted moving forward, and for the first time in years, I felt a flicker of determination amidst the chaos. This was only the beginning. After that brutal confrontation, I found myself grappling with emotions I never expected to feel. I was angry, hurt, and filled with an overwhelming sense of betrayal. Sarah's excuses echoed in my head, but they felt hollow and insincere. I needed time to think, to process what had just happened. The love I once felt for Sarah was now entangled with resentment and confusion. The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't focus on work, and my colleagues noticed my distracted demeanor. I tried to put on a brave face, but I felt like a ghost walking through life, just going through the motions. I spent hours staring at the wall, replaying the moment she confessed over and over. My mind was a storm of questions. Was there something I could have done differently? Had I missed the signs? In the back of my head, I kept reminding myself that this wasn't my fault, but the self-doubt gnawed at me. One evening, I decided I needed an escape. I went out with a few friends, hoping to drown my sorrows in drinks and laughter. I was surprised at how much I needed that distraction. As we laughed and shared stories, I temporarily forgot about my broken heart. But then, just as I was starting to enjoy myself, my phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. My stomach twisted at seeing her name. "Hey, can we talk? I miss you," it read. I stared at the screen, unsure of how to respond. Part of me wanted to scream at her, to tell her how much she had hurt me. But another part of me craved the connection we once had. Maybe it was just the lingering love I still felt, or perhaps it was the fear of being alone. I decided to ignore her message for the night. I didn't want to talk, I needed to think. When I got home, I sat in silence, the weight of the world on my shoulders. That's when it hit me, I needed a plan. I wasn't going to sit around feeling sorry for myself. Instead, I would channel this pain into something productive. I refused to let Sarah's betrayal define me. Over the next few weeks, I dedicated myself to my career. I had been working in marketing for a few years, but I had always harbored dreams of starting my own business. With newfound determination, I began to put my ideas into action. I spent countless nights researching, planning, and networking. The more I immersed myself in work, the less I thought about Sarah and her betrayal. I started to find success. My freelance projects began to multiply, and I was soon able to secure clients that I had previously only dreamed of working with. It felt good to reclaim my life, to take control of my destiny. With every small victory, I felt a little lighter. I knew that I was on the right path, and I was doing it all without Sarah's support or acknowledgement. But as I climbed the ladder of success, I still had to confront the emotional fallout of my marriage. I avoided Sarah's messages, but she persisted. I'd find her texts every few days, each one more desperate than the last. "I'm sorry, please talk to me, and I still love you." Every time I read them, I felt a mix of anger and pity. Did she really think those words could erase what she had done? Then one afternoon, while I was preparing for a meeting, my phone buzzed with yet another message from her. This time it was different. "I want to make things right. I realize how much I've messed up and I miss you," she wrote. I took a deep breath, my heart racing. For a moment I considered responding. Maybe she had genuinely realized her mistakes and perhaps there was a chance for reconciliation. But then reality struck me. Did I really want to go back to a life where I was constantly questioning her loyalty? No, I had come too far to let her back into my heart without some serious thought. Instead of replying, I decided to meet with my closest friend, Mike. He had always been a pillar of support through tough times. We met at our usual bar, and over a couple of beers, I poured out my feelings. "Dude, I just don't know what to do. Part of me wants to move on, but another part still cares for her. I don't want to throw everything away, but can I ever trust her again?" Mike listened intently and then offered his perspective. "Look, man, it's great that you're finding success, but don't let her back in just because she's saying sorry. You deserve better. You need to decide if you want to rebuild trust or if it's time to cut your losses and move on." His words resonated with me. I realized that while I was rebuilding my life, I had to make a decision about Sarah once and for all. I needed clarity, and it was time to confront my feelings head on. As I left the bar that night, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I was not just going to rise from the ashes, I was going to thrive, and Sarah would see it all unfold from the sidelines. After that night with Mike, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I was determined to focus on my career, but I also knew that I had to confront Sarah once and for all. The emotional turmoil was still there, lingering like an unwanted guest. It was time to figure out where we stood, if we stood at all. The following weekend, I reluctantly agreed to meet Sarah for coffee. I wanted to hear her out, and more importantly, I needed to assert my boundaries. As I arrived at the cafe, I felt a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Would she have a genuine apology, or would she throw her usual excuses at me? When I saw her sitting at a table, her expression was a mix of hope and anxiety. She looked different. There were dark circles under her eyes, and her usually vibrant smile seemed dimmed. I couldn't help but feel a twinge of sympathy. But I quickly reminded myself of the betrayal, the hurt she had caused. "Thanks for meeting me," she said softly as I sat down, her voice slightly shaky. "Let's cut to the chase, Sarah. I'm not sure what you expect from this conversation, but I need to know why I should even consider trusting you again," I said, trying to keep my tone firm but measured. Her eyes widened, and for a moment she looked taken aback by my directness. "I know I messed up. I was lost, and things with Mark just happened, but it meant nothing, I promise," she pleaded, her hands trembling slightly. "Nothing? You're saying it meant nothing after you spent months lying to me? I can't just forget that, Sarah. I need to know if you understand how much you hurt me," I replied, my voice getting more intense as I felt my emotions surfacing again. She took a deep breath, looking down at her coffee cup. "I get it. I really do. What I did was stupid. I was lonely and I didn't know how to communicate with you. You were so absorbed in your work and I felt neglected. I thought running away would make me feel better, but it didn't. It only made things worse." I couldn't deny that her words rang true. I had been focused on my career, pouring my energy into building a future, but that didn't excuse her choices. "I understand that you felt neglected, but that doesn't justify what you did. You could have come to me instead of seeking comfort elsewhere." She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I know. I wish I could take it back. I thought about you every day, I swear. But I didn't know how to fix it. I was stupid and I let my emotions get the best of me." As we talked, I saw glimpses of the woman I had fallen in love with, the woman who could be funny, supportive, and loving. But those glimpses were intermittent, overshadowed by the betrayal. I took a deep breath and decided to lay everything on the table. "Sarah, I've been working hard on my career since we last spoke. I'm finding success and it feels amazing. But here's the thing, if I'm going to move forward, I need to know that you're committed to rebuilding trust. That means complete transparency and honesty. No more lies, no more secrets." She nodded vigorously. "Yes, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'll share my phone, my messages. Just please give me a chance to prove that I can be better." I studied her for a moment, trying to gauge her sincerity. "And what about Mark? Are you done with him?" "Absolutely, I've cut all ties. I promise you there's nothing between us anymore," she insisted. But even as she spoke those words, a part of me remained skeptical. How could I believe her? How could I trust her again? "Sarah, I need time to think. I can't just forgive and forget overnight. This is going to take work on both our parts," I said, my voice firm but calm. "I understand," she replied, her face a mix of relief and sadness. "I'll do whatever it takes. I just want a chance to make it right." I left the cafe feeling more conflicted than ever. Part of me wanted to give her a chance to redeem herself, but another part of me screamed that I should walk away and never look back. I knew that the path forward wouldn't be easy, no matter which way I chose. As I drove home, I started to formulate a plan. I would take control of this situation, not just for Sarah, but for myself. I needed to focus on my own growth, and if Sarah was serious about making amends, she would have to prove it to me over time. I decided that I would keep my distance for now, allowing her to show me she was committed to change. Meanwhile, I would continue to pour myself into my career. The taste of success was sweet, and I was determined to keep climbing with or without her. But then something unexpected happened. Just as I was gathering my thoughts, I received a call from an acquaintance in the industry. He had a business opportunity that could potentially skyrocket my career to the next level. I felt a rush of excitement wash over me. This was the break I had been waiting for, and it was the perfect distraction from the emotional chaos of my marriage. "Let's meet tomorrow," I replied, my voice filled with enthusiasm. I could feel the winds of change blowing in my direction, and I was ready to embrace whatever came next, both in my career and in my relationship with Sarah. I just hoped she would step up to the plate, or I would have to make a decision that could change everything. The next few weeks passed in a flurry of activity. I was consumed by my newfound business opportunity, and it felt invigorating. The project involved partnering with a small startup that aimed to disrupt the marketing industry with innovative technology. I was in my element, brainstorming ideas and strategizing on how to bring the vision to life. The excitement of working on something meaningful and potentially lucrative was intoxicating. But amidst the rush of work, Sarah lingered in the back of my mind. We started having more conversations, but they felt superficial. She was trying hard to show that she was committed to making things right, but I still wasn't convinced. I had yet to see any real change in her behavior, and part of me remained guarded. I didn't want to give her my heart again, only to have it shattered for a second time. One evening, after a particularly long day of meetings, I decided to check in with Sarah. I had some time to spare before heading out for drinks with friends, and I wanted to see how she was doing. When I arrived at her apartment, I noticed the warm glow of candlelight flickering through the window. It struck me as odd, but I dismissed it, thinking she was just trying to create a romantic atmosphere. "Hey," I said, entering the apartment. "Hi, surprise," she exclaimed, her face lighting up. "I cooked us dinner. I thought it would be nice to celebrate your success." I had to admit the gesture was sweet. As we sat down to eat, I watched her intently, trying to gauge her sincerity. But as the conversation flowed, I noticed familiar signs of her old self, the Sarah who was charming and engaging but also a bit manipulative. I couldn't help but feel a flutter of hope, but I quickly pushed it aside. "Thank you for doing this. It means a lot," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. She smiled, but there was a hint of desperation in her eyes. "I really want us to go back to how things were. I miss our life together." That statement hung in the air, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she was trying to play on my emotions. "I miss our life too, but it's going to take time and we need to be honest with each other. How are you feeling about everything, about Mark?" Her expression faltered, and I could see the vulnerability beneath her bravado. "I've been thinking a lot. I don't want anyone but you, and I regret what happened. I can't believe I let myself get caught up in that." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. "It's good that you're reflecting, but I need more than words. I need you to show me that you're committed to our relationship." She nodded earnestly. "I will. I promise I'll do whatever it takes." As I tried to enjoy our dinner, I felt a sense of unease creeping in. I needed to know the truth about her interactions with Mark, and I wanted to ensure she had truly cut ties. After we finished eating, I made a bold move. "Can I see your phone?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Her expression shifted instantly, and I could see the panic in her eyes. "My phone, why?" I took a deep breath, knowing this was a crucial moment. "I just want to make sure everything is above board. I can't move forward without trust, Sarah. It's vital." For a moment she hesitated, her gaze darting around the room as if searching for an escape. Finally she handed it over, albeit reluctantly. My heart raced as I unlocked it, scrolling through her messages. I wanted to be wrong, desperately wanted to see nothing but benign exchanges. But then I found it. A message thread with Mark. The instant knot in my stomach twisted tighter as I read their exchanges. It was mostly innocent banter, but the last few messages made my blood run cold. "I miss you too, babe. Let's meet again soon." I felt a whirlwind of betrayal wash over me, and my hands trembled as I looked back at her. "What is this, Sarah? You said you were done with him." She froze, her face draining of color. I swear it's nothing. We were just talking. I told you I miss you." Anger surged through me. "You're still reaching out to him after everything." I was just confused. "I'm trying to figure things out," she pleaded, tears starting to form in her eyes. "Confused? This isn't confusing, it's dishonest. You don't get to play both sides, Sarah." The reality of her actions hit me hard. I realized that even after everything we had gone through, she still hadn't fully let go of Mark. I had been trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, but here was the truth. She hadn't changed at all. "Maybe I was naive to think we could just pick up where we left off," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I need time to think about what this means for us." As I stood up to leave, Sarah's pleas echoed in my mind. "Please don't go. I can change. I'll do better, I promise." But I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. I walked out of her apartment, my heart heavy with the weight of what had just happened. I had poured so much effort into rebuilding my life and career, only to discover that Sarah was still ensnared in her past. It wasn't just her failure to see the damage she was causing. It was also a failure to acknowledge the pain she had inflicted on me. I drove home, feeling a mix of anger and sorrow. I had given her a chance, but she had squandered it. I could no longer ignore the reality that our relationship was fundamentally broken. I needed to protect myself, and that meant I had to consider what a life without Sarah would look like. I couldn't allow her actions to dictate my self-worth or my future. As I sat in my car, taking a deep breath, I resolved to channel this pain into my work and personal growth. I would rise from the ashes of this betrayal, and if Sarah wanted to watch from the sidelines as I built my success, so be it. The fire inside me had been ignited, and I wasn't going to let anyone extinguish it. The days following that confrontation were tough. I felt like I was caught in a whirlwind of emotions, trying to balance my ambition with the heartache that still lingered. I immersed myself in my work, pouring every ounce of my energy into the project with the startup. The adrenaline rush of building something from the ground up was exhilarating, but it was also a distraction from the emotional turmoil I was experiencing. I kept my distance from Sarah. She flooded my phone with messages, each one more desperate than the last. "I'm so sorry. I'll do better. Please give me another chance." Each text felt like a reminder of the pain she caused, and I couldn't bring myself to respond. I needed to focus on my own healing before I could even think about our relationship. One evening, I was at my apartment, working late on a presentation for the startup. I pored over the financial projections and marketing strategies, feeling a sense of purpose. Suddenly, my phone buzzed, interrupting my concentration. It was a message from Mike. "Hey, let's grab a drink tonight. I think you could use it," he texted. I hesitated at first, but the idea of getting out and venting to someone who understood my situation was tempting. I needed to talk about everything that had happened, and Mike was always a good listener. I agreed, and soon I found myself at our usual bar, the dim lighting and buzzing atmosphere offering a welcome distraction. Mike arrived shortly after, his friendly grin easing some of the tension that building inside me. "Hey man, you look like you've been through the ringer," he said as we settled into our seats. "Yeah, you could say that. Things with Sarah have been complicated," I replied, taking a sip of my drink. He raised an eyebrow. "Complicated how? Last I heard, she was trying to worm her way back in." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "She is. But I found out she was still in contact with Mark, and that pretty much shattered any trust I had left." Mike's expression hardened. "Dude, you can't let her keep stringing you along. You deserve better than that. You're building a life for yourself. Don't let her drag you down." His words struck a chord. I had worked so hard to rebuild my life, and I couldn't afford to let Sarah undermine that progress. I know, but part of me still cares for her. I keep hoping she'll change." "Listen, man, hope is good, but don't let it blind you to the reality of the situation," he said, his tone serious. "You need to make a choice. Either invest in your future, or go back to a relationship that's not going to serve you." As Mike's words sunk in, I realized he was right. I had been holding on to the idea of what our relationship could be rather than facing the reality of what it was. I couldn't keep living in limbo, waiting for something to change. After a few more drinks and deep conversations, I felt a sense of clarity beginning to emerge. I needed to take a stand and put my needs first. I couldn't keep allowing Sarah to manipulate my emotions. When I got home that night, I took a deep breath and sat down with my laptop. I began drafting an email to Sarah, one that would clearly outline my feelings and intentions moving forward. I wanted her to understand that I had given her multiple chances, but I had to prioritize my own well-being. The next day, I hit send. The email was straightforward. I expressed my hurt, my disappointment, and my decision to focus on myself. I stated that I needed space to figure things out, and that I couldn't continue to engage while she still had ties to Mark. I hit send and felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It was a difficult decision, but it felt necessary. I knew it might hurt her, but I also understood that it was essential for my own healing. A few hours later, I received a response from her, and my heart raced as I opened it. "I understand that you need space, but please know that I'm committed to changing. I won't contact Mark again. I love you, and I want to prove that I can be the partner you deserve." Part of me wanted to believe her, but I had to be realistic. Trust was not rebuilt overnight, and I needed to see real actions, not just words. As the weeks went on, I buried myself in work, making significant strides in the startup project. Soon, I was preparing for a major pitch to investors, and I felt confident in what we had created. It was exhilarating to witness my hard work paying off, and my sense of purpose grew stronger each day. But there was still a nagging feeling in the back of my mind about Sarah. I missed the companionship we once had, the laughter and the intimacy. Yet, every time I thought about reaching out, the memory of her betrayal came rushing back, reminding me of why I had taken a step back in the first place. One night, just as I was wrapping up work, my phone rang. It was Mike. "Hey man, I have something to tell you," he said, his voice filled with urgency. "What's up?" I asked, my curiosity piqued. "I just ran into Sarah at the bar. She was out with a group of friends and I couldn't help but overhear her talking about you," he replied. My heart sank. "What did she say?" "She was saying how much she misses you and how she's willing to do anything to win you back, but I also heard her mention something about seeing Mark again." The betrayal stung once more and I felt the anger rise within me. "So she's not being honest with me again. I think she's still playing games, man. You deserve better than this." I hung up, feeling a mix of rage and heartbreak. This was it. I couldn't let her manipulate me any longer. I made a decision then and there. No more playing nice. It was time to take control of my own narrative. I would cut ties completely. Sarah would have to learn that there were consequences for her actions. As I sat in the quiet of my apartment, I felt a surge of determination. I was going to rise above this and I wouldn't let her pull me down any longer. My career was thriving and I was ready to embrace a future built on my own terms. In that moment, I knew I had to let go of the past, the pain, the memories, and most importantly, Sarah. I would move forward and leave her behind, watching from the sidelines as I built my own success, free from the shadows of betrayal. The decision to cut ties with Sarah settled in my mind like a heavy weight. I had spent years trying to make our relationship work, pouring effort into something that had become toxic. Now, I was ready to prioritize my own journey. I realized that I had been waiting for her to change, but the only person I could truly change was myself. I reached out to her one last time, sending a clear message that I was moving on. "I need you to understand that I can't continue to engage in this relationship. I need space and I won't be available to you anymore. It's time for both of us to reflect on what we truly want." The response was immediate. A flurry of texts came through, filled with pleas and apologies. "Please don't do this. I'll change." But I stood firm. I had made my choice, and I wouldn't let myself be swayed by her desperation or remorse. I had been through enough, and it felt liberating to establish boundaries. In the following weeks, I focused entirely on my work and personal growth. The startup project gained momentum, and we secured our first major investor. The thrill of success was intoxicating, and I found myself surrounded by people who believed in me and my vision. I was finally building a life on my own terms, free from the emotional baggage of my past. One evening, as I prepared for a pitch presentation, I received a call from Mike. "Hey man, congratulations on your success. I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing," he said, his tone genuinely supportive. "Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. I'm doing well, actually. Focusing on myself has been a game changer," I replied, smiling as I spoke. "I feel more energized and driven than ever." "That's awesome to hear. You're on the right path. You deserve all this success and more," he encouraged. As I hung up, I felt a sense of gratitude wash over me. I had surrounding myself with supportive friends, and that had made all the difference. I no longer felt the need to dwell on the past or the relationship with Sarah. Instead, I was excited about what the future held. The startup continued to grow, and I found myself attending networking events, meeting talented individuals who shared my vision. I was constantly learning and evolving, and my confidence soared. It was exhilarating to be part of something that had the potential to change the industry. But even amidst all this success, there were moments when I felt a pang of loneliness. I missed the companionship I once had with Sarah, the laughter, the intimacy, the shared experiences. Yet I reminded myself of the reasons I had chosen this path. Those memories were tainted by betrayal, and I needed to look forward, not back. One evening, after a particularly successful pitch, I found myself at a local bar celebrating with my team. As I raised my glass in a toast, I looked around at the people who had become my new support system. They were genuine, passionate, and excited about the journey we were on together. It felt good to surround myself with people who uplifted me rather than dragged me down. As the night wore on, something unexpected happened. I caught the attention of a woman across the bar. Her smile was warm and her laughter infectious. We started talking and I felt a connection that I hadn't experienced in a long time. Her name was Rachel, and she was vibrant, ambitious, and driven in her own career. The conversation flowed easily, and for the first time in months I felt a spark of hope. It was a reminder that there was life beyond the heartbreak, that love could exist outside of the shadows of betrayal. As the evening came to an end, we exchanged numbers, and I left the bar with a renewed sense of possibility. Over the next few weeks, Rachel and I began to see each other more regularly. Our conversations were filled with laughter, and I found myself feeling lighter with every encounter. It was refreshing to be with someone who appreciated me for who I was now, not who I had been in the past. As I reflected on my journey, I realized that I had grown immensely. The heartbreak had shaped me, but it didn't define me. I had learned to set boundaries, to recognize my worth, and to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. When I finally gathered the courage to tell Rachel about my past, her reaction was supportive and understanding. "Everyone has a story," she said, her eyes full of compassion. "What matters is how we choose to move forward." Her words struck a chord, and I felt a sense of healing wash over me. I had transformed my pain into strength, and I was ready to embrace whatever future awaited me with her by my side. As my career continued to flourish and my relationship with Rachel blossomed, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the lessons I had learned. Sarah's betrayal had been painful, but it had also propelled me toward a path of self-discovery and growth. I had taken control of my narrative, rising from the ashes of my past and building a life filled with purpose. While I would always carry the scars of that experience, I no longer allowed them to dictate my future. Instead, I welcomed the opportunities that lay ahead, knowing that I had the strength to face whatever challenges came my way. In the end, I learned that sometimes the greatest revenge isn't about getting back at those who hurt us. It's about living well, finding happiness, and embracing the journey of growth and healing. And that's exactly what I plan to do.